I made the trip to Fayetteville, Arkansas, to Bogle Park. I survived the high winds and the frigid temperatures this weekend to come back and do this latest episode of Quick Slants Softball Edition. This is the second softball edition, and we're doing this pod here to recap not only another OU series victory in SEC play, another OU series sweep. They go to Arkansas. They win the 3 games, 7-0 in game one, 6-4 in game two, 10-7 in game three. Games 1 and 2 were a doubleheader on Saturday because of the bad weather on Friday. We are here to break it all down here on this OU Insider YouTube channel. I am Jesse Crittenden, and I am joined as always by Bryan Clinton. And Bryan, I got to tell you, making a trip up on Friday, the winds are blowing the car around, and I'm thinking, this could be it. This could be it for me. And I survived because that's how dedicated I am to this beat. So I just wanted you to know that I'm dedicated to this beat.
I appreciate your dedication. Yeah, that was quite a windstorm. I was taking care of Bennett, and Blakely was running around the house screaming, "My house is blowing away. My house is I thought she was talking about our house. Her playset in the backyard that is anchored down, two of the anchors came up, and it really was about to blow away. So yeah, it was nuts. I'm glad you made it safe though, man.
Goodness, glad you guys are okay. And obviously I'm speaking in jest. I think we both would like to express our thoughts, prayers, well wishes
Mm,
to the people who really were affected in Oklahoma throughout the weekend. I know the winds were bad. There were wildfires in a lot of different places, particularly Stillwater. So
yeah,
I'm obviously talking in jest, but I know there were people who were really affected on Friday. So our well wishes go out to them. Bryan, let's
yeah.
talk about softball again in a series that I joked with a couple people. I joked with you. I joked with a couple people that, I thought you could win the series. I'd be surprised if they swept. And then I was like, well, would I really be surprised if they swept? And of course, how can you really be surprised? Because this team goes to Arkansas and sweeps a really good Arkansas team, a really potent offensive Arkansas team that had scored 20 runs in game three against Ole Miss the previous weekend, but had lost that series. I'm just telling you, Bryan, being there in that stadium, I still don't really understand the Woo Pig Suey, if I'm being honest. I appreciate it as a tradition. Um, I still have mixed feelings about it, but it was a raucous environment. Stadium was packed. The outfield general admission was packed. There was a good showing of OU fans, but it was a rowdy environment. And I think there's a lot of things to break down here, but the first one's got to be Sam Landry, who just through 6 games in conference play has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, she has pitched. I don't mean this dramatically. I don't mean to be dramatic. She has pitched on the level of Jordy Ball and Kelly Maxwell and other OU greats. That's how well she
Yeah.
has pitched through 6 SEC games. And it's not just the stats, which are phenomenal. I mean, she goes all 7 innings in game one, holds the second best offense in the country coming into the weekend to 0 runs in game one, completely shut down Bree Ellis, who had been arguably the best hitter in the country coming into
Yep.
the weekend. She played all 3 games. She comes in to close game two. She comes in to close game three, and not in ideal circumstances
No.
in either of those games. And I want to give her weekend. I think my stats are right. I compiled them. 11.1 innings across the 3 games, 5 hits allowed, 2 walks allowed, 10 strikeouts, and I believe 0 runs on the road
Yes.
against the second best offense in the country. She's been, Bryan, she's been way better than I could have anticipated. And she has been one of the best pitchers in the country, bar none. That's
Yeah.
how good she's been.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably good enough to get you some award. I would imagine she'll be on some award lists this week just for her performance there in Fayetteville. Yeah. This is she continues to be like the real anchor of this staff. And I don't think you are dramatic at all in how she has started. This has been it's been easily the most surprising part of the staff. Not just that she's been good. That's not the surprising. The surprising part is that she has been elite, truly elite, among the best arms in the country. And there have been situations where if she wasn't the best arm in the country or one of them, Oklahoma maybe doesn't pull out a couple of these closer games. So she's been the difference in a lot of ways.
No, she has. And I should clarify just because I don't want to be misleading. Obviously, she missed the first weekend against South Carolina. So we were like, yeah, it was a really good start to non-conference play, but the question was going to be how is she going to hold up
Yeah.
against a talented SEC team, and she not only was phenomenal, she was the bedrock of this entire team. When she is in the circle, everything works.
Yep.
Which the defense had phenomenal moments throughout the weekend, regardless of who's in the circle. But when she's in the circle and the offense is playing like it did for most of the weekend, this is a team that can win the title.
Yep.
And that was going to be the question: is who is the ace on this team? That was the biggest question coming into the year: is who is the ace on this team? We didn't get to see it against South Carolina, and there's going to be other tests. She's going to face Texas. She's going to face Florida. She's going to face Bama. But I don't know how you can pitch realistically better than she pitched this weekend. And it's not just the 5 hits and no runs. It's not just the 10 strikeouts. It's 2 walks. That's it.
Yeah, she's not giving up a lot, and that's a team that draws walks. So, yeah, very impressive.
Here's the other side of that coin, though, and I can tell you just being there is that as impressive as she is, and we talked about it last weekend, that there's still questions about this pitching staff outside of her, and those questions got bigger. And we didn't get to see Audrey Lowry, who Patty said is dealing with a muscle strain that it doesn't sound super serious, but they want to get it x-rayed. And she said there was no use in throwing her this weekend when we're still early in conference play. That ended up being a big deal because, look, I mean, Arkansas's offense, we saw how explosive it can be when it was not Sam Landry in the circle. And we're going to talk about a lot of good things about this offense in just a second, but it's worth to mention Kirsten Deal's ERA through 2 conference weekends, 5.83. In 12 innings, she's given up 15 hits, 10 earned runs, 14 runs total, 8 walks. Isabel Smith through 2 conference weekends, 10.08 ERA in 8 innings. And the two Kirsten and Isabella Smith combined have given up 7 home runs. Isabella Smith's given up 5 of them. Bryan, I just being there, it's just up and down. And Kirsten's had good moments and bad moments.
Yes.
Isabella Smith has been she started game 3 and got pulled after 1 inning because she gave up a bomb to Bree Ellis, which no shame. Or not to Bree Ellis, it was to Courtney Day. Bree Ellis had 2 home runs off of Kirsten Deal. No shame in giving up home runs to this team, but all of a sudden it's like you got Sam Landry.
Yep.
You're hoping you've got Audrey Lowry when she's healthy, but it's a tenuous line that Patty said. And the main thing that Patty complained about is walks.
Yeah.
And those 2 combined have given up 15 walks through 2 conference weekends. And that might actually be the bigger issue outside of some of the scoring and some of the hits is that Arkansas was getting free bases.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Is it still too early? I don't want to have a repeat of the conversation we had last week. Is it still too early?
I don't think it is. I think you've seen two offenses that you're going to see similar talent levels of throughout the season as we go forward. I mean, there's really not going to be an off week as far as teams that are able to put the ball in play. And from here on out, you can't give up free bases. You can't give free opportunities to those offense. It will bite you at some point. It's going to. And the fact of the matter is, if Oklahoma wants to play the level that it does, over the long run, those instances can happen. You can't have 15 walks in a series. You can't have you can't get over those things. And so I think you look at it as you just said, you know what you have. You know what you have in Landry, and you hope that Audrey Lowry is healthy. But Right now, the other two are more question marks. I think some of it has to do with transitioning. I mean, coming from Campbell, right, uh, to the SEC, like that's a big jump. And then Kirsten Deal, as talented as she is, we've seen some fantastic performances from her throughout the years that she's been here, but we've also seen some struggles. That's been something we've seen from the beginning with her, and so I think that's just going to be something that she's going to have to work through. You'll get good innings out of her. I know
Yeah.
that they will for sure. It's just about minimizing those issues down the stretch.
I think you nailed it. I think my biggest takeaway was if you've got Sam Landry in the circle and the offense playing like it did for a lot of this weekend, you can win the title. You
Yep.
can. The question is, do you have other players not only that you can rely on outside of Sam Landry, but that you can rely on for big stretches of games?
Right.
Because, and I think at this point, I think you're hoping Audrey Lowry can be that. We saw what she did in game 3 against South Carolina. Like you just said, Kirsten's had good moments. She's had really good moments last year. The whole thing with her has been consistency. And I
Right.
think with Isabella Smith, as good as she was to start the year, this has been about as disastrous of a start to conference play, I
Yeah.
think, for her.
Yeah.
But to look on the good side of things, Bryan, if I had to ask you, and you may already know this, if I had to ask you who leads this team in home runs, do you know what the answer would be?
I don't know off the top of my head.
It's Gabby Garcia. It's a true freshman, Gabby Garcia, who was phenomenal this weekend.
Wow.
And she's got 9 home runs on the year. And I think the biggest thing that stood out to me is she comes in, Arkansas takes a lead in that first inning, takes a 3-0 lead. First at bat in the top of the second, Gabby Garcia blasts a solo home run. Then later in the inning, the lineup comes back to her. Later in the inning, hits an RBI single. Later
Oh
in the
man.
game, 5th inning, blasts another home run. 2 home runs in this game in a game that OU needed that offense. And I think the biggest thing for me is being in that crowd, how raucous it was, how I mean there were some OU fans there, but it was an Arkansas crowd. To see a true freshman like that, man, I just now on the year, I mean in conference play, Bryan, 4.55 batting average,
Oof.
4 home runs. She has 12 RBIs. That's second to only Nelly McEnroe Marinas, who we'll get to in a second. I think those two are the story to me, and also that when they fell behind, they got clutch runs and hits when they needed them. And you
Yeah.
were saying it last weekend. We're seeing that DNA that we've seen in past teams. We saw it this weekend.
Yeah.
They got in some
Yeah.
tough spots, man. It was 1-0 going into the 7th inning of game 1. They scored 6 runs in the 7th inning. They were down in both games 2 and 3 and hit. I mean, they were in game 3. They went from down 3-0 heading into the second to leading 6-3 going into the bottom of the second. It's
Wild.
it's insane what this team is doing.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
insane.
and you look up, they're 25-0, like
26.
26-0, 26-0. Um, it's just it's so hard to put it into other words outside of it. It's every single team that Patty Gasso puts together, like it has like there's a similar through line, and it just continues to show up. Like here's the wild thing, like we've talked about it in several podcasts at this point, and it just continues to be the trend. They're still averaging over 2 bombs a game. I mean, they're 54 home runs on the year now as a team. And it just continues. And like you just said, Gabby Garcia leads the team, but it's also newcomer. You've got Isabel Emmerling right behind her, Cassidy Pickering right behind her with 8. But then the rest of the lineup, you go through everybody 1 to 9. Everybody's showing the ability to hit power. All of them
Yeah.
at least have a single home run. So it's pretty wild. And you said this, so I got to give you credit before we even hopped on here. But the best offensive player right now on this team might be Nelly McEnroe Marinas. Like she's been
It's not
incredible.
close.
Yeah,
Outside of Gabby
she
Garcia,
has been
it's not
incredible.
close.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, she's batting 522 in conference play. She leads I mean, she leads in basically every statistical category. She was fantastic this weekend.
Yeah.
Both at third base and at the plate. And it's particularly impressive, Bryan, when you think about how OU just scored 23 runs this weekend. And through 2 conference weekends, Ella Parker is batting 0.77. Cassidy Pickering, who did get back on track in this weekend, she had a home run that was really big for her in that second game, especially. But has it been elite hitting from Cassidy Pickering? Bryan, through 2 conference weekends, there are 4 hitters batting above 294 on this team. A lot of this offense is coming from 2 freshmen, Gabby Garcia
Yeah.
and Ellie McEnroe-Marinas. And the fact that you can, I mean, Ella Parker has still been productive. She's walking a lot. She's got 10 walks. That's counterbalanced the lack of hits. But you just swept 2 conference series, and your best offensive players have been true freshmen. And they not only have been good, they have been elite.
Yeah.
I want to read this quote from Patty, because I asked her about, is there a thought that if the pitching's good, if the defense is good, that the offense will come eventually? And she just said, our offense is too good to be held back. Up and down the lineup, they're really good. They're better than I thought they would be at this time. They're stronger. They hit the ball hard. It's kind of coming at you from all angles. And I mean, we said this last week, and there's going to be a struggle at some point. They're going to lose a game. It's going to happen. But I don't know. I mean, can you say enough about what this team's done through 2 weekends?
Well, it's just wild. You sit here and look at it, like, just to drive the point even further. You've got 43 runs scored through conference play, and 26 of those, so over half, well over half, are from those 2 players. It's from McEnroe Marinas and Gabby Garcia. Yeah. 96 total bases, and 50, what would that be? 51 of those from those 2. Like, I mean, that's just, to me, that's wild. That is absolutely wild that they've been as productive as they have. But uh, you just look at the group, at what this team has. I really like the fact that you're seeing other players really pick it up, because the time is coming when Ella Parker gets back to swinging the bat well. Like, that's going to happen. And I believe that there's going to come a time when players like Sydney Barker and Tia Malloy are playing a role in that offense as well. And it just continues to roll. And there, like you just said, there is coming a point. There will be a time when Oklahoma faces some adversity. As good as Arkansas is, as good as South Carolina is, at least to this point in the year, they're not the better pitching staffs that Oklahoma is going to face this year. There will be better down the stretch. And if the offense slows down in those series, then maybe we have something to nitpick. But right now, it's pretty tough. This team just continues to prove me wrong. And I think everybody else. I always thought that they were going to be very good because it's an Oklahoma team, but they still continue to just outshoot my expectations.
Build on that to kind of wrap it up. You mentioned it. They're gonna face better pitching staffs. Arkansas. I mean, we saw it in that game 1 when they threw their ace Heron.
Yep.
OU has 1 run and 1 hit going into the 7th inning, and then explodes late. And then we saw Arkansas kind of throw the kitchen sink in game 3 today. I think they threw out 4 different pitchers just trying to find something, and it wasn't going to be good enough. But Heron's a good pitcher, and there's still that thought that even though they struggled the whole game, Sam Landry was able to stabilize things, and then they found their offense late, which is what we've seen from this program time and time again over the years. Yeah. And I think they've earned that, like, you can treat them like past teams, that even when things get down, I mean, they'll probably lose a game at some point, but this team has that gene of if things get rough, they can find a way to pull things out. And I want to end it on this. Nelly McEnroe Marinas, in the last 8 games. 14 for 26 at the plate, 14 RBIs, 15 runs, 4 home runs.
Wow.
I mean, we're seeing she's been the team's best offensive player.
Yeah.
And we talked all in the preseason about someone was going to need to step up outside of Ella Parker and Cassidy Pickering, and we're seeing it right now. We're seeing the growth of a player who can be an all-time Sooner. That's how good she's
wild.
been.
It's wild to say that.
It is. Bryan, we'll be back next week for another episode of Quick Slants, the softball edition. OU plays East Texas A&M at home for a midweek game on Wednesday, then goes back out on the road to continue conference play at Missouri this weekend. We will have you guys covered both throughout the week for softball coverage, and then we'll have you covered from every game this weekend. And then we'll be back for another episode of Quick Slants on Monday. You can also catch us on the Oklahoma Drill that usually comes out Thursday or Friday here on this OU Insider YouTube channel. You're going to make sure you don't want to miss it. Make sure to like and subscribe here on this OU Insider YouTube channel, or head over to ouinsider.com, become a VIP member today. Until then, appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you guys next time on Quick Slants.